What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the big thing. I'm excited for today's show, man. For a lot of you people, you might not know my guest by face, but you better know him by his name. It's Justin Kroll from Deadline. If you've heard of a story breaking and there's something that just happened in the world of movie news, it probably came from him. Most of the shit does. I've known him for a while, man. We started off now. I don't want to say rivals. That's not fair, but I think it was like a who the fuck is this guy? And that was him saying that to me. But he's great. He's a good dude. I'm been wanting to talk to him for a while. I got a lot of questions. I got a lot of questions about shit that I just don't pretend that I don't pretend that I know a lot about. And he might have all the answers. I don't know. He's not going to tell me shit, but I'm still going to ask him. And we have a lot to talk about with Justin. I'm going to ask him some stuff with streaming and how that's working and certain deals that we're making. He made a great point about Disney recently in one of his tweets. Disney really utilizes their library, shit that they have, titles that they have, and they turn them into series. And Justin had said in his tweet, why don't more people do this? We're going to get into that. I'm going to see if he has any clue of when the Obi-Wan trailer is dropping, if he's heard anything. A lot of that stuff. And if you haven't done it already, please subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification button. It's very important. It helps out tremendously. And check this new graphic out. I'm pretty excited about this one. This way you just scan it on your phone, everybody. You want to listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, we're really gaining an audience right now. So as I mentioned, you guys, we don't do donations on this show. We don't do any of that. We don't do no super chat. Just the sponsors, man. You guys help us get it. All right. Let's get into this thing. It is Justin Kroll. It is me. It is the big thing. Let's do it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back. It's the big thing. It's me, Kristian Harloff. And as I mentioned, I am here with the one and the only Justin Kroll. He's in the shadows. He's in the shadows. It's all good. He's in the shadows. I dig it. I prefer it, man. It's almost, you're more mysterious than Boba Fett is now. I can tell you that.
Yeah, much. Right. I mean, I've learned this. I used to do like these since COVID. You know, you got to get used to Zoom and what's good lighting. And we used to have meetings in the morning, and it was so bright I had to go the opposite direction. And now recently I've been doing stuff in the afternoon, and now it's like the lighting is just the worst. I have Zoom call. It's interesting now. Instead of drinks, you do Zoom calls with like execs and agents and all that stuff. And I did that my first about 2 weeks ago. And it was just like, the joke was in the shadows, can't see you, all this stuff.
It's good though. So you can get away with more shit. So look, a lot of different things that happened, I guess, over the last, I'll say 3-4 years, right? So when I met you, you were working for Variety.
Yep.
Yeah. So at what point did you go from Variety over to Deadline?
July. It was during the pandemic. July of 2020. Yeah. Just, you know, like everybody, that was a big, that 6 month stretch for, I think, so many people. It's like, what am I doing with my life? What's going on? There was so many things going on, and there was some stuff internally at Variety that, you know, I saw a shift, I guess. And I was like, let me take a shot, and made some calls, and you know, me and Mike had always stayed in touch, because I just, in this business, you just don't know when you're working with. So I just found it better to like play nice with so many people rather than get in like pissing wars. So, you know, one thing to let into another. And, you know, luckily enough, I have some colleagues at Variety that were super gracious, and I was able to transition over Deadline, and it's been there ever since, and it's been going pretty great. It's so interesting because it's just like, I'm not as worried about losing stuff. It's almost, I'm like over consumed. Like, people will just come to me, and it's just like, all right, I got to prioritize what exactly I need to be jumping into. And like, while I'm still trying to be like thoughtful and respectful of people that have taken care of me over the years. So things have changed a little bit, but still covering that same stuff, the transactional stuff, the breaking news, all those fun tidbits here and there. It is nice that like we got past all the like the layoffs and furloughs of what the pandemic brought on, which was not like a fun thing to cover. And it was like it's so interesting now, because I always say there's a club of people that started new gigs during the pandemic, which is terrifying but also exciting. And I remember one of the guys I was talking to he changed management companies, and he's just like, he was joking about how he'd have to call me to see if he knew if he was going to get fired. I was like, That's not my like. I don't know. Like it was so weird because it's like, isn't that like HR's job? Like what? Like the fact like that does happen where you're telling someone in real time that I've heard you may be gone. But like the fact that it was so like drawn out with some of the things they were doing, it was an odd experience.
I'm
But
sure it was. Yeah,
it's nice to kind of be semi-normal in this unnormal world, I guess. But yeah, just back at it, and it's a lot more control at Deadline. Like I deal with news alerts, everything that like comes out is me, and then like usually like I do get nervous about edits and like right pictures, typos, the names. That's always kind of terrifying when I'm the one in charge of pressing publish, because usually at Variety it was like I would have it send it to a web editor, or they would prep it, and then it would go out. But then I would lose like news alert control and all this stuff, and now I have more of that freedom, which helps with a lot of things, and also can be a little like scary at times when you're really like when you're juggling so many things.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I learned actually a lot about what you guys do as far as like this protocol, the ways you have to do things, like all of that. I learned how you guys did it between you and Jeff Snyder when stupidly for about a year Schmoes No got into that business, and quickly we jumped out of that business, and that's how ultimately how we became buddies. But it's like watching what you have to do, because there's the smaller blogs that kind of go out, and I'm sure it drives you nuts still all the time, is that they don't really do a lot of the fact checking and things. They put things up, they put reports out. I mean, look, perfect example. So today this report comes out about, well, when we air this, it'll be later, but the day of the taping, Krasinski gonna be in the Doctor Strange. So, and that's not, now is that something that even comes across your desk, or you just go, this is one of those blogs just posting?
You got to take some of it seriously. Like I just learned with Schmoes and Umberto when he was coming up through Latino Review and all those things. Like, you know, there are some things where I can tell where they're getting their intel, and some where it's like, okay, this is it's case by case. You know, the Krasinski thing. Listen, I don't know any. Like, I will say this. You know, I'm pretty dug into Marvel. I've broken my fair share when it comes to these like tricky cameos and stuff, and like what they're doing with that. I tread lightly, especially with who a person could be playing. That has just gotten us in trouble before in my early days, and it's just not worth it to like, you know, people remember and like bring it up and stuff. So, but yeah, you have to, you know, I can't keep like Umberto is so much better at, because he was so in that world. He's knows looking, and then he'll do the occasional like that's a fake or whatever. I'll see it and like, you know, and I either have known like, oh, that's already come and gone. That's something to look into. That's not even worth a bother. And occasionally and sometimes I'll respond, and sometimes I'll just move along my day and just be like, you know, I kind of like will also tread by like what the other like bigger like fish are kind of trying to do with stuff like that, and then you reassess. Like, I know everybody wants to be first, but like it's always a good idea to kind of take a breath with some of these things, especially if it's already broken. Like, what's the point of like in that front? I mean, obviously when like a competitor like THR Variety, Jeff, you know, now Bellany with his newsletter, you gotta run, because 9 times out of 10 those guys are pretty on point with their fact checking and stuff. But yeah, I mean, you know, it was different. It was interesting with you, because that was like early days where I would get a little pissy about that stuff, and now you just learn that like those are going to come along, and you just gotta like tread water. It was, I mean, you're the only one that ever invited us out for like drinks or lunch or whatever we did to like talk about what you're doing. And you know, listen, there's just so much stuff out there now that like everybody's gonna break theirs. There are the things that I've been on that if I lost it, I get frustrated over, but like, you know, it's part of the job. You're gonna lose things here or there. So
Well, do you know how, I mean, I'm so far removed, it's like 8 years now, but do you know how I was getting my shit? Did I ever tell you?
I never asked. I mean, it's your source. I don't want it. It's like
I don't give a shit anymore. I was on a tracking board, and
well, that's okay. So since we're talking, tracking boards and grids were like, is like, you know, I can always tell. You can tell by the way the story is written. I'm like, okay. For those that don't know, there's these grids that all the agencies have that has a rundown of all these things, and I in my like early days, they were very helpful in terms of tracking stuff, breaking stuff.
Yep.
But like, you shouldn't go off them and be like, run everything there, because it's like, it's so.
You should when you're trying to get your name out there for a
like
second. Nobody knows.
Yeah, that's it. But like, if you're at Variety or
Right.
of serious, like, you can get some trouble if you just use, if you're only using that. But yeah, like, I caught on quick about like those things. So,
but that's when I got so much respect for you guys, like, immediately, because after I met with you guys, I said, all right, you know what, I'm gonna try to actually do, because we were trying to get the Schmoes Know website to like a legit place. So I was like, because both you and Jeff thought it was just some website in the middle of nowhere.
Twitch?
What's that?
Twitch.
Do I?
Twitch.
Oh, there's Twitch. Oh, yes.
Not like Twitch, the video game, but there was.
Yeah. I remember.
They had a couple breaks. Like, I've forgotten some of them, but like Schmoes Know, like, honestly, I just remember you. Like, the site sometimes I do forget, but like, it all like blurs.
Yeah, sure.
Over the years.
Well, but all that, and then I said, okay, well, I'm going to try to get this thing like legit. So we're going to keep trying, because we were getting pretty good traffic off those things. And I said, after meeting with you guys, and I think it was you and I had met at like Century City, and we had.
It was after Denzel Magnificent 7, right?
Yeah, because that was the one that we got.
Yeah, that was the one that like got me really angry. It wasn't just you; it was more of like, you obviously learned there was like a politics to all this stuff, and like, you know, Denzel meets with everything, and you got to like, it's like, if you rush it, then you're gonna get egg on your face. It was a bunch of crap. But
but it was those conversations that we had, because like, here's Justin, who's like a legit reporter, who is like what you do, and you call the studios, you ask for comments, you try to see if they give you any stuff, and then I had those conversations with Jeff Snyder and with Justin. I was like, all right, I'm gonna start doing this. So I had this thing for Chris Pine, where what was that movie, the boat movie that he was on, that he was there was a Disney
Boston with Casey Affleck.
No, was it? Is that what? Yeah. I think you're right. And he was whatever it was. Yes, it was Casey Affleck. And
the Disney movie.
Yes.
Based on a true story. I forget the name of it.
And I had that. So I called up and I said to the rep or whatever, I was like, I have this report that Chris Pine's gonna be in this, and they said, no, it's not true. We don't know who you are. But and then either you or somebody else broke, and I said, fuck this shit. I'm not doing this anymore. I was done.
It's a grind, man. That I was at Variety, and I dealt with that in my earlier days, where I would call, and either they wouldn't respond, they'd lie, or they just hand it to Fleming. And you just trial by fire. There was a lot of losses back in the day, and you know, it's fun. It's funny how I don't really remember it as much, because like, it's a long, like, so much. You're just what's a pain in the ass now is you just don't even deal with the old stuff. But if you stick with it, like, that's the thing. It's like, it's not for everyone. It's an easy thing to burn out of. I know I've been bumped into some people, like competitors, and their big thing now is like, I know there was, I won't say who, but someone left one of the trades because another competitor was like, part of your offer is you won't have to deal with breaking news. Like, that was in the contract. And that's like such an interesting thing now, that, and the demand for it and all that stuff. And listen, I get it, because you can see a difference between an exclusive that you get first from a traffic standpoint.
Yeah.
And you don't. And that's the other thing too, that's changed so much. When we first met, Variety was behind a paywall, and traffic wasn't something I kept an eye on as much. But now it's like, it really is part of my job, where I have to prioritize, like, okay, I need to chase this because it's just simply going to do much better than this, or this. And that's part of the conversations I have as well, is like, I will get to it when I can, but I like need to know what's going. And it's not like that's just journalism now. I'm sorry. Like,
every business, dude, but every business has shifted. Every business, like my business for sure. Right. And I was just thinking about this recently, like when Mark and I were doing Schmoes Know for the reviews, and building out that YouTube channel, it was the reviews that kind of, like, if January of this year was when Mark and I used to do it, our channel would be just dormant right now. But because of streaming, like with Boba Fett and Peacemaker and all this shit that we, plus trailers and all that, it's like, it's thriving. So I'm assuming, because, and even looking at the thing that I brought up in the intro with you, and the tweet that I'm looking at, this is your tweet. It said, Disney's the one studio who's like, we have this library and why not use it? And I just don't know why other people aren't doing the same. You can still do those originals, but the branded IP is always going to help with most of the talent like Alan, who are willing to come back if the money is right. And they were talking about, of course, deadline for Santa Claus doing a sequel series, right? So, I mean, that kind of leads into all of this of what we're talking about, because how much from what we're talking when you and I first met to like today, when there's so much more to cover in streaming.
That's the thing, is like, yes, studios are changing, but I mean, if you think about it, since the pandemic, I now am covering Apple TV, which has movies and film, and they've ranked up their film stuff.
Yep.
HBO Max, Peacock, Paramount Plus is now like a big thing, and Disney Plus. And the two biggest things that have changed how I do my job, and it basically involves like a TV element, is when Ryan Murphy did American Horror Story and said we're doing an anthology now, which was the first time ever where movie stars and any actors could be like, oh, I'm not committed to this thing for 6 years. I do one and done. And that's where, and the second biggest thing is when McConaughey and Harrelson were like, we're going to go do this TV show, True Detective, and one season be one and done. And the show it's not like the characters won't be returning. It's just like a theme that's repeated. And with that, you get Big Little Lies, you get Fargo, you get Mayor of Easttown. And now, because of the relationships I have with all those movie stars, publicists, and agents who normally have different reps, and that's how an agency is built out, now I am the one chasing Downey Jr. doing his first HBO miniseries, and like all the Marvel, like She-Hulk I had to break, and Miss Marvel, and like and Jonathan Majors and Loki, and as Kang, like it's just additional stuff that's added on there.
There's a lot though for you now though. It's like, instead of, I remember there was always, for the film stuff, it's like, obviously there's tons of news, but the big ones, as you were saying, the ones that they're going to drive the views and get the bosses happy, are the Marvel, the Star Wars, the DC, all that shit that's popping right now. And now, because they have, were you then, for your job, when Disney and Marvel started saying, oh, we're going to make series for Disney Plus, you're like, oh fuck yeah, because now I'm going to have a lot of stories to cover.
It's all it's different. I mean, I didn't, like, in the moment, I didn't think about it, and then once it started happening, I mean, especially when I moved to Deadline, because Nelly and Mike are very much like, if you find something, chase, like, because we're like the smaller unit, like, it's just easier sometimes for us to just grab it and run. And the dynamic of things changing, like, it's nice because I'll never, like, that goes back to, like, if you lose something, there's 12 more things you can just jump on and chase. But it's just there does become like over consumption of, like, almost forget about things, like, sometimes that are just like not quite as big, but have like an equal importance, that like, oh wait, I didn't check up, and then you're losing it to another competitor. So
what's the biggest story that you ever broke that you're the most proud of?
I mean, Pattinson.
Oh yeah, the Pattinson.
Yeah, so Batman. That's the bull. I mean,
that's the big one.
It's Batman and Bond that you like in this kind of job, and Bond is now Bond watches on officially, I think.
So how did you get that then? Can you? I mean, you don't have to tell me your source, obviously. I don't want you, but not like you tell us. But how did you start?
It was just meticulously keeping an eye on it, seeing where they were, and then hearing Rob's name, and then knowing where it was coming from, and realizing the connections, and it happened because Fleming I broke it at Variety. He was poking around. I held off because there was the whole, well, he might do multiple films and this and that, and someone reached out and was like, you probably should move quickly. Your info looks to be, well, at the time, I would later find out that there was still like a suit that he would have to wear, and it kind of pissed off the Pattinson of it all. But I also was pretty certain he had it locked up, and it was just a formality. But
fascinating. It's so fascinating.
It was a long process. I mean, I don't know how long, but it certainly was months of just, oh, Reeves is still writing, and like you like, it's like, it's going to be the same with Bond. You're going to hear a bunch of names, and it's going to be I imagine, like, they're going through their process, and it's not something. The thing is, the names have changed so much that, like, maybe Barbara has it already, and she's just like really being close. Like, but like the whole, like, the guy in Bridgerton. Like, it's like, oh, like the fan castings are just like, it's like a Marvel stuff. It's just like, it's great that you think they would make great this, but like it doesn't always.
It's got the trail. Yeah, the trail's got to make sense, and you got, like you said, it's that's why listening you do this stuff, like the paper trail of it all is what I don't think people realize, and even like people who are listening and watching right now going, oh shit, well Justin's the one who broke Pattinson doing doing Batman, and I think that's what you guys don't get the credit on, I think, too, because you said something earlier that I definitely want to touch on too, because it's so important, where we talked about where you want to be careful, where you don't want to piss off the studios by releasing, like an example for like the John Krasinski thing, or ruining a surprise. But where's the line? Like at what point do the studios, like if you find something out that they don't want to release, but you're like, yeah, but everybody's got this and I got to go with it. At what point do you say, okay, well, this is going to piss them off, but this is this part where they have to realize this is the job?
It depends how certain I am.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a key, because I think character descriptions, I don't think that they're never really helpful. You really have to just trust the source and then go with it. I think that's always. I don't really get it. Like, it's funny. Like, a good one recently was Chris Evans, a year ago. Funny enough, Chris eventually making his return in some capacity as Captain America.
Yeah.
I remember talking that over, and someone involved was like, "Oh, I'm assuming we'll just go wide." Like, they just like, and certain people were just like, "What's the point? Like this, like we can't wait till D23. Like, it's gonna get out." Like that, like they do come to terms, but I think with like Garfield and like, spoiler alert, like, can we say it? Like, he's doing interviews at this point. So
yeah.
That was just something that like we just weren't. It's interesting because clearly the studio knew with the trailer that they were gonna have to show a Doc Ock Green Goblin element.
Yep.
So that's why I think Jamie and Alfred's names were leaked early.
Oh, right.
To be like we have to like somehow get out in front of this, but like we can stop at some point. And that's the thing, is like, certain people didn't come back. Like there was no Mary Jane variants.
Right.
So that's where, like, if you're me or Boris, that's where you're like, is it worth the embarrassment? Because you will get checked by your competition in that case.
Yeah.
And I think like more and more, my whole thing is like, if it's some sort of super small thing, like Harry Styles, like the Harry Styles Eternals thing that like got botched. If I probably could be like, all right, if you're trying to show some surprise, I can hold. The moment someone else starts poking around, you need to call me and reassess. And that works with all the studios, and they're all pretty good about.
Right.
I mean, that happened with Russell Crowe on Thor. Like, I told them, all right, I'll like let this be a surprise, since there's other things and it's relationships. Like, at the time I just knew it was a small potatoes thing. So I was like, I can wait to like, I just, in terms of like needing the help to break bigger stuff down the road, I like, you do like, it's fact checking. It's like getting the right information, and like, and these people are important. Like they like, it doesn't serve you. Like, short term, it will serve you. Like, I've just seen people like burn those relationships and it's come back to haunt them. So
what's the craziest phone call that you've ever gotten from like a director or an actor or producer saying, no, dude, you can't? Or
it wasn't a no, dude. It was I got a couple of those. I mean, Michael Mann, that was a funny one for Black Hat.
Yeah.
He's very like, I mean, everybody's heard the stories of how protective and creative control and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I had published it already with Chris starring in the movie and all that stuff. And I forget who was in, like a junior, like someone like just emailed me in all caps, Michael is calling you right now. And I like got real nervous. And I saw the phone ring. It's like that movie where it's like your eyes go to the red dot as it's ringing.
Yep.
And I pick it up, and it's Michael Mann in a super soft tone, and he's just like, "Can you just do this or this with the sentence real fast, and it was just like him editing a movie basically. And he was super. I mean, he was very calm and nice. It wasn't like he was screaming at me, but we fixed it. That was an interesting one that I remember.
It's pretty surreal too.
It was there was something I was preparing to do, and for a Dwayne Johnson thing once, and I remember it was Sunday, and I was going into a movie. My wife was out of town. My phone vibrates, so I figured it was my wife telling me when she was getting in the next morning. And I got out of the movie, or no, I went to go to the bathroom. It's like that AMC Century City where they have those refill drinks.
Yes, yes.
So I went to refill it. I was coming back and I checked the phone, and on Apple iPhone it says maybe and a person's name.
Yes.
But somehow they know it it said maybe Dwayne Johnson. I'm like, ha ha ha. And I went to read the text, and it's something regarding a film, and he's like wants to chat tomorrow. And somehow he follows me. He must have seen it on Twitter or something, but he did it while I was in Rampage. Now I was like, all right, and by the way, I'm watching one of your movies. And he's like, okay, don't cry when the big gorilla dies. I'm like, this guy just spoiled the movie for me. And he's like, I'm kidding. That was wild. Again, it was very calm and easy. And but it just the iPhone knowing, I was just like,
that's funny.
And it was a weird number, and I asked someone close to him, and they're like, "Oh, that's his burner phone or something like that." So, because obviously he probably doesn't want me like drunk texting him down the road if that ever would happen.
Right, he needs that.
Not that I did that or do that, but like just in case,
just in case you are that guy.
But those are some of them.
Those are good. Those are good.
I've had there's random screaming matches, but they're with people that none of your viewers would know. Really, it's just like the you've dealt with it, just like these people with big egos that feel the need to like show off, like pump their chest a little bit. So
producers and stuff.
Not like it's just execs, agents, public. It's the list is long. It's like
I'm sure especially. Well, I think that
I never had like a Harvey or Scott story. Like I just didn't like. Yeah, I never really. There was no screaming matches involved in that front. I don't think. I would have remembered it.
I'm sure. And look, you've been doing. How long you been doing this now? Give or take.
Started at Variety February of 2008. I've been doing. So I did that. I want to say 10 plus. I would say 12 years probably.
Yeah, man. That's another reason why is when you have the PR agents or the agents yelling at you at this point, you're like, dude, I've been doing this over 10 years now.
Honestly, it's funny. I had something come of the day, and like there was like a photo I knew I couldn't include, and I was just prepared for that email from the publicist to complain. They never did. But like it's more of those things. Like I don't like there is like the like come on, man. Like I don't have time for this. I've done
probably another reason why you didn't get that email though, is because at this point you earn your stripes, right? They know who you are. I mean, your name in the business is like,
oh, I still get them.
You get them?
I will say I went back to that release, what it was, and the top had the two names. So I was like, this person assumed the client wasn't going to be in the headline or the photo included. So, just the weird stuff they get. Like it's always the small things that people get bent out of shape and lead to like such a brouhaha. And then there's a big thing coming where, for the most part, all the cooks in the kitchen who are involved have been pretty understanding and ready to do something. And that will pop tomorrow probably.
Well, there's a lot to talk to Justin still about, because I gotta see if he's got any intel on the Obi-Wan thing. I'll talk to him about in just a second. But before we do that, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to tell you all about DraftKings. DraftKings, ladies and gentlemen, you guys know that we love DraftKings here. And for you guys, there are 4 teams remaining in the NFL playoffs, and that means only 4 teams left for you to bet on DraftKings Sportsbook. It's an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Counting down to Super Bowl 56. New customers can get 56 to 1 odds on any team. You bet just $5 and you get $280 in free bets if your team wins. If you're not a new customer, you can experience the conference championship with same game parlays. You can combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more money you can win. DraftKings is safe, it is secure, it is reliable, but most of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. Here's how you do it. You got to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, but you got to use that code Big Thing, and you get 56-1 odds on any NFL team. Bet just $5 and win $280 in free bets if your team wins. That's promo code Big Thing for 56-1 odds at DraftKings Sportsbook. It's an official sports betting partner of the NFL. You got to be 21 or older. New customers only, minimum $5 deposit and a $1 wager required. All right, getting back to Justin Kroll. Here he is. All right, man, I got to ask you this question because it's driving me crazy. When are we going to see this Obi-Wan trailer? I know you know. Oh, are you muted?
For a while.
Sorry, say that again.
Hold on 1 second.
Yes, sir. So, because I feel that Justin knows.
I would say, so Moon Knight came out yesterday.
Moon Knight trailer came out. We got the Boba Fett series. If I was to guess, I was going to guess that they're going to put the Obi-Wan trailer after Boba Fett concludes because they don't want to overpower that, plus the fact that they can release Obi-Wan after Moon Knight concludes, which will be somewhere in like late April or early May.
Sure.
So that's what I would
That's the thing, is these big things, they don't like to be on top of each other. Like Boba Fett came after Hawkeye, and like all these things, like Turner and Hutch can be at the same time as like they are in the. That was actually in the middle and all that stuff. Or Mighty Ducks can be around the same time.
Right.
If I were to guess, I think that's a good guess with the Boba Fett. Or so they love to do it at like half times of their sporting things. They did it yesterday during the Rams game. I would say with Saturday Night Basketball heating up again on ESPN, I'm going to guess it would be connected to one of those big basketball games because they love tying the original Star Wars trailer premiered on a Monday Night Football game. They love doing half times of those because like half times they already have to fill it. Like sports anchors hate doing half times because it's just such mindless crap, especially like when you're the only game on. There's no highlights to show.
Right.
I would guess it's going to be linked to a sporting thing that ABC or ESPN is the Disney tie-in, and I'm going to go. It's after the All-Star break. I would guess like that first Saturday there'll be something that pops. If by the way they do things, that's what I guess. They could also drop it on like a Monday morning on Twitter too. Yeah. But I think it's gonna be a beat because Moon Knight just came. And they're not going to go one on top of the other. Right. So I would guess, let's say after the All-Star breaks, one of those Saturday NBA games, I would say is when you're getting it. I don't know. And I like, that's the thing is like, and the other thing is when you get the trailer, you get the release date.
Right.
And they kind of like not letting you know when those come within months. Like that's their whole thing. It's just like,
what is that? What is that about? Why do you think they're doing that?
It's just their Disney thing. Like they just, they want to focus on one thing at a time without taking away. Like they have Boba and they have Moon Knight. They don't want you distracted by really anything else on their streamer.
Right. That kind of plays into one. I guess it's more because obviously a lot of people who watch my stuff, it was always the Star Wars conversation that comes into it. With Kathleen Kennedy, she just re-upped for 3 years, and then with another movie, because the movies that are supposed to be coming out, like Taika Waititi has his movie, Kevin Feige still has his movie. Have you heard any whisperings at all about these movies? And do you think at all that you think Kathleen Kennedy will re-up after the 3? And
they are. I will say, here's the thing: they're very like with the success of these Star Wars TV series. They're very happy with what they have right now. With what happened on the last Star Wars and Solo, they've kind of, even the Rian Johnson, which is a weird one, they're getting the reactions aren't like they thought they would get like Kevin Feige, you can't touch us, even when you have like Eternals type situations, like we're still going to get like overly positive press. Haven't gotten that, so they're in no rush because of the TV element.
Mm-hmm.
And You know, the Rogue thing was interesting because I was tracking that, and then for that, I mean, to me, I still feel like that's a Wonder Woman thing. Like that's Warner Brothers. Like, okay, you didn't move quick enough on this.
Okay. Because there were reports to the fact that it was the the old creative differences jargon. So you think it was more Warner Brothers than it was actually them not
the
seeing
more
eye to eye?
Yeah, just because she leaves Cleopatra,
yeah,
but is still involved with Rogue Squadron. So to me, that still seems like there was like they couldn't get the right cast, they couldn't like line up things, and like to have a deadline on a Star Wars film for when a production should start is not a good idea. So it's let's just table this. We have all these Star Wars shows this year. Like there's just, I think they just realized once the Mandalorian worked and they have all these other things to do, you don't need a theatrical film to like the way Iger presented it, where they're going to have one every year. But when he did that, they didn't. The Disney Plus and Mandalorian didn't exist, didn't realm, and now they've figured out a way to keep it going. And I think they just realized like this is not untouchable. People like, and they've also realized like from a box office standpoint, like internationally, it just isn't have the same pull as like a Marvel thing right now. Like you look at like Solo, you look at Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, like that, just those numbers don't have the same pump. So
isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Because you're right, because they made $1 billion, but after Force Awakens, they're like, well, it needs to make $2 billion. And
well, I mean, the funny thing is we're looking at Spidey numbers right now, and that Force Awakens is untouchable. No one's hitting 950. It's like that truly is. There's just so many films now, and to keep legs are so tough. Like, I mean, Spidey just doing 700 is very impressive, and like maybe it gets close to 800 pre-pandemic. I like the pandemic of it all right now is so interesting because joining the 700 club and still making 1.6 billion, like clearly shows people don't give a shit or crap about Omnicron as much.
I've cursed 20 times in the last.
Sorry, I forgot to ask the question.
You're okay.
Well, no, so we'll see. I don't know. I just, they're clearly, the funny thing is like it's interesting with the TV stuff because clearly Favreau and Filoni. Filoni are doing like, they're just kind of like not meddling. And I do feel like when it gets to the film stuff, that's a little different because you're dealing with director like Favreau and like Rodriguez comes in and he's like, he just is following, like he's going by what they say. He'll direct it, but Favreau's writing it and he's got his plan. Right. It's an interesting, it's kind of way Feige uses his directors in his world, where they've had this interesting thing where they went and got these directors that like are auteurs and want control. And you get into situations like a Lord Miller or Josh Trank or all these stuff, Benioff and Weiss, where those guys are just used to having much more.
They don't want to follow a game plan. They don't want to follow a game plan.
And also, I don't know if Kathleen has ever been the type to. She's not like like Feige is an architect when it comes to story and stuff. Kathleen is like comes from the Spielberg world where she's just trying to produce these things, and like it's just a different. They just do things differently, which is why Feige is doing a Star Wars film with them because he's essentially giving an architect to what that film would be.
Which is why I love it. Yeah,
that's the next film we would eventually see. But again, that's so far off,
right?
Because Waldron, I don't even think Waldron has even come close to starting it because of all the Loki and Doctor Strange stuff he's dealing with.
I wonder if they're going to mention any of that at Celebration. But it's funny that you say the whole game plan thing. This is why I don't get on. Like I'm not a fan of The Last Jedi at all. But what I will say though is I'm not on board with the people who shit on Rian Johnson all the time. I happen to think Rian Johnson is a phenomenal filmmaker and storyteller.
My whole thing with that film is it had 6 endings. Like
it's got so many things for me. But your point that you made of the plan versus kind of do your own thing. Rian Johnson is a perfect example of a person who can do both, because people are like, he can't follow a plan. Well, okay, well, talk to me about Breaking Bad. He had Ozymandias is one of the best episodes of television ever, and he directed that. Nobody gives him credit. They were, he's the guy who ruined Star Wars. It's like, no, he was. If you're a director and you go, well, this is what I want to do, and the producer goes, go ahead, do it, and you go, all right, cool, fuck it. So I think that he actually follows that plan, but I agree with you 100%. It's about plan versus do your own thing. And with that particular property, you can't do that. And the other thing, though, the reason why I think movies is the thing that, they got to at least figure out over the next 3 or 4 years is because the difference, even though TV is very successful for them, the goal, and you tell me. But the goal seems to be, all right, let's get the subscribers in. Let's get the money for Disney Plus, because we'll continue to get that revenue. We can put, because if you don't like Boba Fett, you got Obi-Wan coming out. So you're not going to not subscribe to it. You're just going to wait for Obi-Wan. But it doesn't bring in the money that $1 billion film can bring in to then.
Those subscribers like have a plateau with how much it's coming from Star Wars.
Right.
You bought Lucasfilm because you want to make money. Like you want that golden goose 9, like that huge number that we were all prepared for when the Force Awakens came out, and it delivered on the domestic front. Still, like internationally, again, we'll see with Avatar, but like Cameron is king somehow, and like it's just so like those numbers are just so wild. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I don't think Kathleen's going to go anywhere, because I don't think she wants to be seen as like failing. Yeah. Like I think if you leave like Fox Searchlight, the heads of Fox Searchlight left the day before Nomadland won Best Picture. Like that, that's how you walk off into the sunset kind of situation. And I think that's important to a lot of execs in this town, is like leaving on a high note. Like it's like a quarterback in football. It's like it's just no one wants to, like, it comes off as you've been fired or failed. And at the same time, I do find it interesting in this day and age, like people are having a tougher time just firing people in general, which is why I just don't think. I think if Kathleen was gonna go, she would have went after the last Star Wars film, and it would have but they're sticking by it, and they're seeing that, like, and honestly, like, if there is probably a little bit of, not a little bit, but a lot to do with like the people they hired. I'm sure they're just wanting more control, and it's like, no, this is what you signed up for. You want control, go do Knives Out. Right. Like go write an original thing. So, and that's why, like, when it comes to Marvel movies, you have a lot of these people that like are going by the game plan, and like, and when they want to try something different, Feige's like, feel free to.
Well, so Sam Raimi is a good example of that, right? Because Sam Raimi, classically, very different landscape when he was making his Spider-Man movies, and it was okay, Sam, do your thing. And even he got into a place by the third one, because it was so famously such a mess, the third movie, where he wanted to, and how fourth movie.
Oh yeah, well, how that fell apart.
Yes, how the fourth movie fell apart. That's what I meant. So like and it famously fell apart, and like he had all these plans and everything was supposed to happen, and it fell apart right away, and Sony almost lost the property because of it. But then fast forward years later, and now here he is working under that plan with the MCU. Do you think this is gonna, obviously it worked out because the movie's coming out
I haven't heard bad things. Okay. I never, until I see a film, I never, like, unless there's like super bad like trouble on set stuff, like I never try to pry of what a film looks like if we haven't really heard that type of stuff. That said, I do feel like maybe there's like a humble pie a little bit, like Sam just realizing, like, you got to pivot. It's like people that, like, it's like what you see with like a Kevin Bacon or Jeff Daniels doing TV and all that stuff years ago, that wasn't like, that was so frowned upon. I think it works with directors too, of realizing, like, I did do this back in the day, but just realizing things have changed, and it's time. And if you still want to, he's still surely talented enough to do those types of things, but it's the playing ball of it all. And that was like kind of my early days with the Spider-Man stuff. It was actually a little pre me. I actually, my first big thing was Emma Stone getting the Gwen Stacy role.
Oh wow!
But like, again, I missed out on what exactly went down with his fourth Spidey. But I will say that it's, I think, it's interesting, because I think actors have a little easier time pivoting when like things are changing, and directors, they have a little harder. If you just look at how like certain directors, like, they suddenly don't have jobs for years and years. I think Raimi just realized, like, this was a different opportunity, and now is the time to kind of to change a little bit. Keaton's an interesting one too right now. I feel like
he pops up in new stuff all the time, whether it's Batgirl
what he's doing. He did, like, he does a Dope Sick thing, which could probably get him his first Emmy. Then he's returning as Batman, and I just think, like, there's even like, I think they've come to realize that this business is changing, and if you want to be arrogant about it, feel free. But there's only so many actors that can still pull that card. So I think you have to, move with the punches.
Well, I mean, that's part of the nostalgia thing happened too, right? There's a lot of nostalgia that's working right now, and it's not, for a while the trend was just pure remake. Just let's remake everything, and that didn't really go as well as they hope it did. The trend was 3D at one point. You know, now the trend seems to be nostalgia type stuff. Whether it's something as I love Cobra Kai, right? And Cobra Kai, I think, helped off of that. And then you look at what happened with No Way Home, and now you got the Flash and all those things. But sticking with Batman, though, I got to ask you: Are you hearing anything about, because they moved Morbius? So I'm curious if you know if the two things. First, starting with Morbius, rumors are that the reason why there's a couple different rumors. One rumor of Morbius is because the pandemic, they want to move it, they want to get it to April. The other rumor is that because they didn't want to step on the continued box office of No Way Home. And then the third rumor is that they're going to put Andrew Garfield in the post-credit scene because of all the hype behind it. Now they want to put him into the universe. Have you any of that shit? What do you think it is?
Definitely not Garfield. Like he can't. I think there was a lot of pulling of hand, like there was a massaging that like that. Pulling off the Garfield Maguire thing was tough. I think I like Andrew. Like just look at what Andrew's done. Yeah. Andrew is specific. Like since he got out of Spidey, what he's done career wise and his choices and stuff, and just look at like he's going to do more tick tick boom stuff, and I just don't see this as like he's playing nice right now. I'd love to do that. I love to do this.
You think it's over?
Oh yes, 100,000%.
Okay, so no, you don't think there's a chance he comes back as Spider-Man?
No, I think this is a one-off type situation, and I just feel like it'd be like the return to the Spidey movie. Like you don't want to like water down a product type thing. I mean, I could be wrong, but I ultimately think it was Omicron, which is top. I think. Yeah. The reason Scream didn't move is because it cost $5 to make probably, and horror has played really well, and they were just like screw it, like we expected the first one did 20 and like like if it does more like we kind of expect similar, and it overperformed. Morbius costs a lot more money, and they're trying to make sure like they've done a good job so far with this whatever they're calling it to like they're I guess your Holland's 3, the Venom, they're 5 for 5.
Yeah.
Because Venom, like, from what I understand, was profitable because, like, watch that film. Doesn't look like the same. It doesn't look as expensive as other comic book movies. There's like 2 set pieces, and you're paying maybe 2 people big prime money.
Right.
So with Morbius, I think my big thing besides Omnicron, I just think they realized we just did a Spidey thing like a month later, like. They don't want to wear out their welcome with the Spidey. Like, I think this is different than Marvel. Like, you need to spread these things out. And I think also Omnicron, like, they just didn't want any factor because it's a new franchise to screw around with it. So again, all these people are like, oh, it moved again. It's like, well, in COVID times, moving, like, let's not count how many times a movie moves. Like, I just think that's like kind of low hanging fruit. But,
it's harder. Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted to kind of spinning it back to Batman. The next rumor is that, well, first, Uncharted. Do you think? Let me ask you 2 questions. One, do you think Uncharted is going to move? And
no, because it would have already.
Okay, and so same with Batman. You think they both stay?
Yeah, Batman for sure. Just because they're. I mean, just look at Spidey. Like in the height of this Omnicron media, everyone's catching it positive. It was crushing records. Yeah. Crushing, no slowdown whatsoever. And Warner's is like, well, it's also like staring like, well, if Spidey didn't move, we're not moving type thing. Or if Spidey, no, more actually they couldn't move because of it was just too late. It's more of like if Spidey can do this,
right? Batman Spidey got in early. The cases weren't 40,000 a day when Spidey came out.
No, the opening weekend is different. I just mean like. After the 40,000, like after Christmas, that it got pretty crazy.
Stuff and Spidey was still making money.
And Spidey was still marching all the way to a billy.
Yes.
So I just don't. I think they're smart. I think it's there's nothing in its way. It owns March.
I agree. I don't want it to move. I really don't want it to move. I hope it stays because it'll own March.
It's gonna own March. It's gonna do like March still has a track record doing really well. There's nothing. There's a Sandra Bullock thing that comes out at the end of the month.
Right. That's the Channing Tatum one, right?
Month.
Yeah.
The Lost City is with Channing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just don't see a world where it moves. Uncharted, I think they would. I think they're just. I think they see it as a perfect. Let's see if Tom's really a star.
Yeah.
Right as Spidey ends, let's give something completely different. And again, I mean, Jackass is sticking like those things right now that like Uncharted. It's just like if you move it, it's gonna like something else will hurt it. So let's just see. It's kind of a perfect timing because the Michael Bay Gyllenhaal film moved. There was a bunch of stuff that kind of moved. Uncharted kind of getting like the Spidey remains, like having as it's kind of the film up until Batman. Like they want to see what they have there. So
yeah. Well, I mean, so I agree with you. That's good. I'm happy to hear that you're not hearing that, because that's what I was definitely worried about that. And I think
again, distribution isn't as up my alley, but as of right now, I think it would have happened already. It just would have.
And well, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot going on right now, and I think that by the point, if I was to guess, if I was a studio saying, look, let's stick with it, and not only for the reasons that you gave, which I think are more than valid, but I also think the other side of it is putting the gamble on the fact that if you look at the way that these things have worked, that by that point things should be going down dramatically by the time you get there. Right, fingers crossed. So if and you're taking the risk there, but you're saying, okay, look, if we're listening to what people are saying, and if it turns to pan out the way that
the Scream box office only helps things not moving. I think this film doing what 16 million more than the previous Scream with Legacy. I mean, if you want to talk, like Scream is like a reason why none of this makes sense. It's like, well, they brought back the cast. They did that the last time, and then made it bombed. And they also had like Emma Roberts and Hayden what's her face, Pennantine, and like. And this one, there's no one recognizable except the Legacy plays, and it doubles it. So it's all like forwards is backwards and backwards is forward type stuff on this thing. But I do feel like the Scream numbers are an example of like, especially for the branded IP and franchises and remakes and sequels, it just shows people are willing to still go to the theater.
It also goes back to what we were just talking about in that nostalgia side of it, right? Nostalgia is kind of that wave right now, and they banked Scream. I mean, they're not calling it Scream 5; they're calling it Scream. They're playing it. They're playing it off of the legacy characters tremendously. Word of mouth helped it. So, and as you said, January horror movie, it owned it. So it was it really, between that and then for me, the things that I'm watching right now are Peacemaker, Arcane. Did you watch any Arcane? Oh, did I lose you?
Kristian, you there? No, I got you.
Did you watch
I'm watching Peacemaker. I have not watched Arcane yet. I finished Cobra Kai. I mean, I'm actually like, it's not just the movies that aren't out right now. Like there's January is like, I was catching up with all the award stuff. Like I've been watching some bad award films right now.
Yeah.
And just kind of looking for like I'm going to watch How I Met Your Father. Like I'm scraping the barrel.
But aren't you, are you a science fiction guy though? You are, right? Yeah, dude.
I'll watch anything.
Watch Arcane. Watch Arcane. I'm not a massive animated guy, but so some of the audience had recommended it to me, and then I heard some other people talking about it. It is some of the best science fiction, animation, live action, whatever, that I have seen in years. It is emotional. It is dramatic. It's heartbreaking, and it's got and it's hardcore. It's really good. Put it on the list. It's really, really good. And I don't know if you know, do you remember Naveed Macalargy? Do you have a relationship with Naveed at all, producer?
I don't.
All right. So Naveed's been on the show. He's a buddy of mine, but I was talking to Naveed yesterday, and he's the guy that when I was at Silver, we did the He-Man project together. And I had said to him, dude, you have to check this thing out. I told my brother about it. And everybody was raving about it to me. It is fantastic. It needs to be a live action series. It needs to be a live action film, and nothing against the animated. The animated it makes it what it is. But I'm trying to tell people I want to sing from the heavens. This is something to watch.
You say from your mouth to God's ears type thing. Like we'll see. Like you say that, and the next thing you know, I'm writing about like Netflix picking it up for the miniseries down the road.
Please let me know when you do it. Obviously, you're not going to tell me what, but you tracking anything big right now?
Oh yeah, always.
Okay. I'm always looking. I'm always looking at your Twitter feed, waiting.
There'll be today. It's the funny, like you get back from a holiday and like everybody's moving like molasses, so like it's just it's a little slower today, but yeah, I mean there'll be some stuff the next couple of days into next week. So
I highly recommend everybody here to follow Justin on Twitter. I'll put his you can see it right now, isn't it? It's up there right now. It's Kroll. Javar.
Yep, Kroll Javar.
Kroll Javar. So make sure you follow him, because I'm telling you, like I guarantee you, whether you knew it was him or not, you have followed his stories many times over the years. So go ahead and do yourself a favor and follow him. Deadline, he is consistently breaking massive stories, and I really am hoping that that we're going to get the word soon about this Obi-Wan thing, and I hope it's Justin that tells us.
Well, I guess we'll end on this. Like, you think Obi-Wan we see before Andor?
Yes, because I thought that was announced already. I thought that was announced.
Okay. I've lost track of this stuff on the release dates.
So I initially.
Oh, you're right. Yeah,
got pushed the same time that Miss Marvel got pushed. Like, and they announced that it was pushing back. But as you mentioned, which is very, very true, Disney likes to play coy with their release dates. They don't like to tell you when things are coming out.
I feel like if they've said that that's not going to flip flop. That's also like, for some reason, I thought Andor shot before Obi-Wan, and maybe that it's more ready to go. I think they're like, honestly, these things are always so like, those series are always like basically done way before their premiere dates, that like it probably doesn't matter. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I like my guess. I'm let's tab it. It's going to be linked to like a Saturday night, like halftime, like it was yesterday.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Report type thing.
Yeah, I think you're right. All right, we're going to find out soon. That's Justin Kroll, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you follow him. Justin, as always, my man, it's a pleasure. We got to do this more. Once we get into the studio and stuff, you should come in and we'll, especially after you break your next big thing, we'll bullshit.
I would love that. I don't mind this. It's kind of convenient sometimes, but face to face is always a preference.
It's the best. It's the best. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you to Justin. Thank you to you guys. Make sure, once again, if you didn't do it already, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, that's where it is happening. Make sure that you help us out. The links are in the description of this video, so make sure you do that. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, do that. Hit the notification button. It's the big thing. I'm Kristian Harloff, and we'll see you very, very soon.